love fashion, clothing. I like desire to buy clothing that I feel like could represent the Lord.
A portion of the proceeds for every collection goes to a different nonprofit.
So we came up with 3 ways that we would know that we're supposed to launch Be Good.
How can we be known as Christians not being like cheesy?
Hi guys, welcome to the Freedom Podcast.
Hi.
I'm gonna have you guys introduce yourselves, just one by one.
Okay, my name is Eliya.
I'm Kat.
I'm Jessie.
And tell me what company you guys have.
So we own and run a brand called Be Good.
Mm-hmm.
So the name is kind of hard to say. Okay, so basically the second word of the name is BI''Gud.
Okay.
Insert text. So be good, be good. It's a Hebrew word for clothing or to put on your whole outfit. And so the name is Be Good, Be Good. But when I'm telling people, it sounds like I'm just saying be good twice for no reason.
Right.
But there's a reason. So, yeah. That's the brand.
How'd you guys choose the name?
Okay, so honestly, when we concepted what the brand would be, we were like, naming this is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where to start. So I prayed about it, and I felt like the Lord was leading me to look at Hebrew words, which I had never done in my life. So, like, imagine me Googling Hebrew, and it's like symbols, and I'm like, cool, where are we? Like, I don't know what's happening. And then I found this website that was translating different words, and I just started typing in, like, boldness, love, like random things. And I stumbled upon Be Good, BIGUD, and saw the meaning and was like, light bulb moment. So we always say, like, God named the brand because, like, he's the ultimate creative director. So we give that credit to him because it's honestly a fire name and we couldn't have made that up on our own. So prayer would be the answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you know how to pronounce a Hebrew word?
Okay, so we didn't at all know how to pronounce it, and we were nervous that it could be like slang. Because when you're messing with another language, you don't know how they're really using it in everyday life. And so luckily we had this guy at work whose dad or uncle or someone in his family is Israeli and speaks Hebrew fluently. So we sent it to him. And we were like, yo, could you just like let us know, 1, how do you say this word? And 2, what does this mean? Because
we didn't want to embarrass ourselves and be the person that gets a tattoo that means something completely different.
yeah, like what if this is like underwear or something? And we're just out here saying be good underwear. That's humiliating. So we asked him, and he sent us a voice memo that's still on our website today because it's actually really cool if you ever want to listen to it. But he was like, it's pronounced be good. It means to put on your whole outfit. And so we were like, oh, perfect. So it's exactly what we thought. And so then it's like, okay, it is be good as the name. So that's kind of how we confirmed, okay, we can speak Hebrew. That was amazing. Yeah.
Did you guys all go into it knowing you wanted a faith-based clothing brand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of the story behind that is I grew up with my dad running a ministry out of our house. He runs a men's drug rehab. So we have like 40 men that live with us that get court ordered by judges to like be in our family for a year. And so coming from that to like moving to Nashville, working a 9 to 5, that depressing transition of like, I'm an adult. What do I do with my life? I really, really wanted something like a ministry to like pour my time into, because I think when the juxtaposition of coming from that and seeing my dad like have that as his life that he's modeling for us to like, oh, now I'm just here getting a job, like living for myself. It just felt off. And I really wanted something to pour into. So I prayed about it. Like this whole story will always go back to prayer. But I prayed about it when I moved to Nashville and was just like, Lord, I really would love for you to reveal some sort of ministry idea that I could kind of give my life to. And I wanted it to be like within a vertical that was true to me, because like my dad struggled with addiction my whole life. So that ministry of like helping addicts, he's like the perfect vessel for that, because that's his passion and his experience. I haven't struggled with addiction in that way that my dad has. So that wasn't really like my lane that I thought I was being called to, even though it was my heart at the time to help with that. So through prayer, I kind of just started concepting like the idea of like, well, I feel like I love fashion, clothing. I like desire to buy clothing that I feel like could represent the Lord, because I don't know if anyone relates to this. I don't know if you guys do, but like growing up, my dad was like, you're not wearing a Led Zeppelin t-shirt. Yeah. And you're not wearing Rolling Stones. Name a song. Like, they don't represent your values. I'm like, but they're so cute. Like, what are you talking about? Like, the Urban Outfitters oversized tees? They're so cute. And I wish that I like had an alternative, and I just like couldn't really find anything. And I ended up talking about this with Kat. And the ideas just kind of started flowing of like, what if there's a world in which like the two things can be true, that we could be like helping ministries and starting something that like represents the Lord, while also like fulfilling our own passions and like filling a gap even in the market of things that we wish existed.
Yeah.
To like create things you wish existed. And so through that, I feel like the business model was birthed of like creating cool things is one of our goals. Cool things being like clothing people want to wear versus missional clothing that you wish you wanted to wear, because the mission is good, but the clothing is still kind of like,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or just being
also go for it, Kat.
or just being like a brand that slaps God's name on it, or a verse
Yeah.
that doesn't give back at all, that throws it on Amazon. We didn't want to. We didn't feel right about that at all. There was no peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've also talked a lot about the idea, or not even just the idea, but the fact that art originated in the church first. And like, how can we be known as Christians not being like cheesy, but being like extremely creative and artful and expressing the creativity of God. So that was like a huge portion of why we wanted it to be not like lame, but and not just like Jesus saves. He does, but like let me tell
He
the
so
story
does.
of like let me creatively show you how Jesus saves, or like
Yeah.
remind you of like his saving grace.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not as abrasive either. Like like don't get me wrong, I love the stuff that's like tap me on the back and so I can pray for you, like on the back of a sweatshirt. I think that's great, but I don't know how often people are gonna see that and be like, yeah. Like I've read essays by like secular people where they feel really offended by like Christians wearing stuff that just plasters Jesus on it, and it feels unapproachable.
Yeah.
And I feel like while that's not a bad thing at all, I do think it helps to not be abrasive or like in your face about stuff, because we're supposed to love, and that should come out first. And if you're like cutting people off from being able to have a conversation with you because you're offending them, even though the gospel is offensive, I just think that helps.
Yeah.
Because I think like we obviously made the brand for people like us who are already believers, but we also had the heart to make something intriguing enough that anyone on the street would be like, hey, what is that?
Yeah.
Like, I want to wear that. And that's why whenever we like ship out orders and stuff, we do have like a little card that has basically the gospel, but written under the guise of like, what does it mean to be good? And we've had people that we know that are not Christians who are like, oh, I'm going to buy that hoodie. Like, that's sick. And I'm like, please do. And maybe read the card. Like, and I think that that's also the goal. Like, it's to be innovative and to create things that we feel like are intriguing and interesting, and not just the church seeing what the world is doing and copying it, but trying to originate ideas that the general population is like interested in. And then when they figure out it's Christian, it's like, oh, okay, well, I still think it's cool and I'm going to wear it. And it's like, maybe like we pray all the time that like the people who would buy our stuff would like kind of sit and dwell on what it is that they're repping. Like they're essentially repping our brand and like diving maybe into like, what does it mean to be good? Or like collection 2, like, what does it really mean to be repping like the narrow road racing team? Like, what does that mean? What does that look like? So I definitely think it's twofold. Like, it's presenting the gospel in some ways to people who are not maybe as about it, hearing it from just like a pastor, but having it be weaved into like a fashion brand unexpectedly, we pray would like actually reach people. So yeah.
So tell me about how your brand connects and partners with different charities, like how that works.
You want to take that, little Jessie girl?
I'll take that. So that's actually my favorite part of the brand is not just the art that we're creating, but the ability that we have to like showcase all the amazing ministries that are already out there and like see how we could support what they've already started. So usually what we'll do is like we have a whole log of creative ideas and collections that we want to do, and we like pray about it and we decide what we're going to move forward with, and then we brainstorm and also pray about what would be the like makes sense for the perfect nonprofit to coincide with that mission and it not feel like forced, but it actually makes sense and it's a good beneficial partnership for both. So a portion of the proceeds for every collection goes to a different nonprofit, and we just like will partner with them in different ways, whether they need supplies or if they need like actual funds or just making sure that it's beneficial to like their very specific mission.
That's so cool. Have you had any difficulties, like even after praying about it, where you guys disagree on something important?
No.
I feel like we did.
Right now. When? I don't remember.
I mean, just about like which one we wanted to move forward with next. Like the first collection
Collection.
came
Okay,
from
yeah,
like
yeah.
all of us pouring our own funds into it, which just goes into the creation of the
business
brand and
side.
how we got started anyway. We can get there in a second. But we did not have enough money to like afford to make like what we did with Narrow Road and put 10 items out. So we were trying to come up with like 3 items that could go across our age group all the way to like when you're 50 and wearing it, because
Making it unisex, which is a whole other challenge.
so
Sometimes I get a
feel
little
like
girly with my taste.
it took a minute to narrow down our first 3 items, and like I was really worried about the good hat, and you're like, no, I believe in this, and then it was such positive feedback. So I don't know if it's really like disagreements, but it's more like doubts about how people feel about certain items, and they become the best ones. Yeah.
Do you feel like each of your individual styles is pretty different?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So that can be like a really great thing that you can, you know, go for 3 different audiences, but also it can be challenging when you're like, I wouldn't wear that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah.
So tell me about how all of this started.
Okay, so this is going to be quite the story. And you guys just interject if I'm getting it wrong, because there's so many pieces to this. But we're really excited to share this because I feel like the story of the brand has so many God moments and I think lessons that are carrying us through even just like stewarding the brand now that it actually exists. But I kind of touched on already, like praying into it, kind of figuring out like, okay, I have this idea. I don't really know how to bring it to life. Because whenever I came up with it, it was like me in my room alone, very limited skill set. Okay. Like I'm not a designer. I had a ton of ideas, but like I can't execute and make them real. Photoshop 101, I didn't take it. So I work a 9 to 5 at the time, still work there. And little Miss Cat gets put on my team. And at the time I'm on a team of like 12 guys and me.
Yep.
And so I'm like, oh my gosh, a girl, let's go. So I'm like, I'm going to be her best friend. So we start chatting, we hit it off. And at some point I'm like, hey, I have this thought. Because keep in mind, she's a designer. So glory to God. I'm like, hey, I have this thought, you know, it's like a clothing situation with ministry partners. Like, you know, what are your thoughts? I wasn't directly like, hey, please help me. But I was just like, hey, like, what do you think about that? And what'd you think about it?
I mean, I got so excited because I had actually started 2 businesses with other friends in the past, and before we could even get the LLC, they like fall apart due to like money or fights or disagreements or like life changes. And I've always loved fashion, and I wanted something. I'm very limited in our job about the designs I want to make versus what they accepted at the time. So I was just pumped that I could do something that was like a passion project. But we could not have been more opposite at the time that she approached me to do this together. So,
Yeah. What do you mean? Say more about that.
Well, we started like heavily talking about it. We would go to coffee shops every single day. We spent way too much money every day.
We
going,
still
like
do that.
sneaking out of the office and like going and talking about this. And then we would like sometimes meet on weekends and everything. And she started feeling really convicted because I was such an extreme pothead for so long. And I was still smoking weed all of the time. And she was like, I don't think I can partner with you in this brand if you're going to continue to do this. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I love the Lord. And I just had not ever felt convicted about that. And like, that just goes back to how he saved me and my whole testimony. And I just like never really felt convicted about weed at the time compared to all the other stuff I had done. And so when she told me that, I was like, well, what the heck? Like, don't use me then. And then it just like stuck with me for like a month. And I was like, wait, no, like I actually am doing something like really wrong. And I'm not practicing like what I'm telling others. And it is like a hidden secret. And we had this like long conversation about it. And then I'm getting baptized and like quit. And, you know, we finally, but we had been talking about this for like a year and a half before we even really got to a point where we were like, okay, how much is an LLC? What kind of business license do we need? Because we were just in completely different spaces at the time. So, yeah.
And I think, like, from that moment when, like, she got baptized and we were going into, like, 2023.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You guys, it feels like decades ago.
Yeah.
It's literally been 3 years. So that was going into 2023 when we were like, okay, we're like ready to get serious about this thing. But we were like, is this really from the Lord? Or are we just like, we love clothes. We're going to do this and like slap God's name on it and say like, this is God's business, you know? And so we really cared about not moving forward like in our own strength and with our own ideas, but like really leaning in to make sure that it was the Lord. And even though we felt like he gave us the name and like all of that was happening, it was like, I want to be sure that this is like who's supposed to be doing it in this city at this time, etc. And so we went to a small group and they were teaching on like specific prayers and asking God for things. And I remember we were like, yeah, we just don't do that. Like, we don't feel like we are owed anything. So we don't like to ask. We just like to say, like, your will be done. Love you. Thank you. And we couldn't really grasp the concept of, like, oh, I'm a child of God and he, like, delights in giving me gifts. Like, I was like, no, I can't accept this. Like, we were like, no way. And our small group leader was just kind of discussing it and challenged us in front of a group to come up with like a specific prayer. And they're like, what is it that you would want God to answer or God to speak to you about? And we were like, well, if we should do be good. And they're like, well, how is he going to confirm that for you? And we were like, I don't know. And they're like, well, come up with something. Like, this is called specific prayers. Like, what is this thing that you're like looking for? And I don't know. I don't even remember if they said come up with 3 or if we were just like delulu and like panicking. Probably the second thing. We were like, okay. And so we came up with 3 ways that we would know that we're supposed to launch Be Good. And the first one was that we would both get a raise because at the time there was no shot we could afford like a sample of a shirt. Like
Nothing.
No shot. No.
We couldn't
shot.
afford a Squarespace subscription for
No.
a website.
It's like $23 a month. We cannot do that. And so that was one of them, which like the probability of that was pretty low because we work at the same company.
Yeah.
And like they weren't giving raises.
In the same department.
In the same team.
Exactly.
And they
yeah.
were on a hiring freeze. Like, they've been on hiring freeze forever, but they just did not do that
No.
for anyone that I knew. And if it was like a tiny amount that really didn't.
Yeah, like an
Make a
annual
difference.
little jump.
Yeah.
2% raise. Yeah. So that was like the context of that one. So that one felt like a miracle. The second one was at the time, the verse Philippians 1:6 was just like everywhere for me and for my family. And so since we were like, we want to make hoodies, we want to make t-shirts, streetwear, that kind of stuff, we were like, we want to see Philippians 1:6 on a hoodie.
Well, no, we said somewhere.
Oh, I thought it was on a hoodie.
No, but that's why it was so shocking.
Oh, okay.
We were like, we want to see, like, because she always gets spoken to by semi-trucks. And
my gosh,
just
you're
by
about to
like, by like a random road sign, some random thing. And so we were like, I want to see it somewhere because you have always had so much faith. You're like, I will see it.
I do look
On
for
the
God
back
in
of
everything.
a license plate.
I really be looking for him.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, okay. And then the third one was that someone would walk up to me or her and have zero context for what we're praying about and say, be good, and walk away.
Huh.
And that one feels kind of crazy. And I remember thinking, that one's kind of weird, but I already said it out loud, so we're going to commit to that.
Yep.
And so we say all that at that small group, and we walk out, and we're like, okay, well, that was kind of weird. And the next day I go to work, and I open the door to the office, and I walk in, and my boss is like standing there and pulls me to the side and says, verbatim, hey, I really want to promote you and give you more money. And I was like,
Sure.
what? Like, can you say that one more time and like put that in writing? So the next day I got a raise. And looking back, like I was like, oh, well, Kat still has to get one and I still have to see that verse and I still have to. So I did not let that mean much to me. But when we tell the story back, it's like laughable how it was like the next day.
Yeah.
And
And then I got mine 2 weeks later.
we were like, well, whatever. Like I was like, whatever, it doesn't mean anything. I'm moving on. And then at the time we're going to Belonging Co. Church, and it's like a Tuesday night service, and we're all seated, and this girl stands up like right in front of us. I'm like, why is she standing? Like I can't see. And she's wearing a hoodie with Philippians 1:6 on the back, like directly in front of us. So we're like, do you see that? Yeah, I'm like, you see what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, whatever. Like, someone still has to say be good, so none of this matters. None of this matters. And I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, because I could be blurring this with a different thing, but they used Philippians 1:6 in the message that night.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like,
Yeah.
That was like a bonus.
okay,
too.
God.
Yeah.
I'm like,
He does that a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so then fast forward. We're still in this waiting season.
Yeah, I would say that was like the end of December, January, and then we don't really hear anything and nothing happens for like a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why we always say that this is like about, now we're saying like, I feel like this was to teach us how to pray because we didn't like give up on it.
Yeah.
We never thought like, he's not going to do it. We got both of these back to back. So maybe the name's wrong. It was just kind of like, no, he has to.
Like we were waiting and praying and fasting and just like looking for God. And I do think that like when you look for him, like you will find him. Because one of our first ideas for a hoodie was like, God is speaking on the back, like, are you listening? Because it's never a question of like, is God speaking? It's more so a question of like, are you stopping to listen and to talk with him and all of that? Not to give a little tangent, but anyways, so February, now we're in February.
Yeah. February
Not
4th.
We'll always remember because, fun fact, February 4th, I traveled to Atlanta to see an old friend from college and also to go on a date while I'm there. Whatever. Just like build your schedule when you're going on a trip. And that same night, she's going on a date. So that's why we always remember this day. Because we both had a date. And that never happens as well. Anyways.
Definitely didn't at the time. No.
Did either of those dates work out? I'm just curious.
She did marry
I'm
the
married
guy.
to him now. And
Love that.
And I'm about to marry the guy as well. So look at God. That's
Yeah.
another testimony
Yeah.
for another day. That's a crazy story. Yeah, miracles happen. Anywho, so
sure do.
I'm heading to Atlanta to go on this date. And long story short, at the end of the night, the guy is like saying goodnight to me, whatever. And he's like, be good, and walks away. And I just start crying, and that's embarrassing. And he's like, hello. And I'm like, oh my
Why did you
gosh,
say
don't
that?
know. Yeah, like you don't know what you just did. So I call Kat, and I'm like, oh, it's on. Oh, it's on. Like, be good is going to be a thing. This is crazy. So that was like our final like confirmation. Like, okay, like God is in this. Like this wasn't us, you know, making this up out of our own desires and like slapping his name on it. Like we fully believe that he's like partnering with us. He wants us to like go and work on this thing to bring him glory. And that just like lit a fire under us. And from that point on, it was like, oh, like we're going to give our all to this thing. Am I forgetting anything else?
Just
I feel
that
like
you
there's
and
so many.
Tyler broke up like the next day. And then we were like,
you were heartbroken.
she was so heartbroken,
yeah.
but she was like, what was that? What was
Yeah.
that? And I was like, well, he gave us the brand. So I don't
Yeah.
think the date was that bad.
Yeah.
And then
it
he
didn't
circled
work.
back
Okay,
around.
so it didn't work out. Let's shout him out. So the next day, he did end things with me, but he did say be good. So I was like, that's why God sent me on that date. Whatever. We called him Be Good Boy for like
Yeah.
Be
a
good boy.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he circled back. That's a whole other crazy story. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
I tried to just like glide over that detail, but you're so right.
Well,
I
you
did
tried to
forget
glide
about
over
that.
the detail that when you came to Tennessee, you prayed for a ministry, but she also asked God, while I'm praying,
I did ask for
can
a
you
husband.
give me a husband as well?
I did.
And she
And
got them both in the same year.
I did. And when I prayed for those two things in 2021, God said 3 years. And I knew it was God because I was so ferociously angry.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 3 years? I am not waiting 3 years. Lo and behold, in fact, I was going to wait 3 years. And so in 2024, that was the year Be Good finally launched, even though it was like a whole thing for
Years,
Right.
yeah.
3 years of from ideation to like execution. It launched in 2024. And then at the end of 2024, Atlanta boy, one day I randomly go out into my yard and he's standing in my yard unannounced.
Stalker.
I know. I'm like, this could have gone either way. Like, this is the story of how I got creepily stalked by a psycho,
Yeah.
or this is a story of how I met my husband. And luckily, it was the second one. So he was in my yard, and he felt led to like show up and ask me to be his girlfriend. He didn't know if I had a boyfriend. We hadn't talked.
Not even just like a date.
No
that's
date,
bold.
just
No.
straight commitment. And I said, this is gonna be weird, but I think I'm gonna say yeah.
That's
And now we're getting married. But that's a story
crazy.
for another time. Yeah,
So,
so,
at what
many
point
crazy things.
did Jessie get brought in?
So
Jessica?
me and Eliya were roommates throughout this whole process. So
Yes.
I was like watching the whole blossoming of this plan
The
for a
chaos.
while. And she knew that I loved the nonprofit side of things and that it was my dream to like partner with a nonprofit in some way and for that to be my career one day. So I would just like talk with them about nonprofits that they could work with and different people that I loved in that industry. And it just sort of became a thing of like, well, why don't you just help us actually with
Yeah.
it? So I joined the team officially, I don't know when, that summer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
2023.
2023, that
Yeah.
summer. And then they were three. We were a trio.
And there were 3.
So responsibilities, your nonprofit side and photographer?
I do like operations and
Okay.
nonprofit. She's photography, all things creative,
Yeah.
design. Yeah.
And I'm just like
the brains.
Yeah.
the idea factory.
And you do social media, right?
We all do social media.
Okay.
And if you look at our social media, you'll understand that none of us do social media.
Yeah.
Please hit us up if you would like to assist us with that. But that's probably the hardest part. of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a full-time job on its own.
It really
yeah.
is.
Oh yeah. But I think what's really cool is that like God brought all three of us together to do this thing, and he gave us all such distinct and different giftings that like we really don't step on each other. And we started meeting with like a business coach that God connected us to that we had no business speaking to, because we were like, hey, we don't know anything about business. You're a coach. Like, how does this work? And the first piece of advice anyone ever asks us or tells us to do is like, hey, like set up what your roles are, because most businesses fail with friends getting involved because there aren't these specific lanes. And we were always just like, oh, like I think God already kind of did that. Like we've never really had interpersonal conflict as friends in business, which like I think is like a miracle testimony of like thank God that we even before like prayed for protection of our friendships, because business and friendship is sticky. Like
pretty much everyone says like don't do it.
I know.
They also say like don't be roommates, and then like we work together every single day and sit right next to each other, and it's just like we're
like,
always up in each
I'm
other's
doing almost every
business.
part of life with these women on this couch, and like I don't experience animosity towards them. We don't let ourselves grow bitter. Like we nip things in the bud so that they don't turn into something they weren't supposed to be.
Yeah.
And we're not perfect, but like I just feel like the Lord has definitely protected our friendships so that this business can thrive in an environment that doesn't have weird
like drama
hormones happening. Yeah. 3 women in a business. Crazy
or like
miracle.
secret jealousy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's been really cool.
So tell me about how your first launch went when you first started it.
That was so fun.
It was so much fun.
When was the very first launch?
It was May 8th of
May
2024.
Good memory, Jess.
Thank you.
Yeah, shout out to her.
That's why I'm here.
The memory bank.
And what charity was it with?
So our first launch is our evergreen launch, so that collection will always exist.
Okay.
So we partnered with my dad's ministry,
Cool.
the rehab, because we knew we needed something that we would be aligned with kind of forever. And then after that, we kind of dropped like capsules or collections that probably won't get restocked or have things added to them. So the second one was Narrow Road, and we partnered with Mechanics on a Mission. And they basically do like pro bono mechanic work for single moms, help families get cars who are in need.
Veterans.
So we try to connect the launch to the ministry so that there's like a connection there. But for the first one, it was with The Refuge, which was obviously just like really special for us. And we even traveled down there and did interviews with the guys in the program just for them to like tell their testimonies.
You can find them on our YouTube.
Yeah, you
That's
can find
so
us on YouTube. You'll see like 2 videos. We also could use some help with YouTube. So once again, link in
We'll
description.
have job listings in the description.
Do you want to join our team for free?
It was really good though, because we launched with a very small collection of like 3 items, and they're simplistic and like to the point with our branding, and it was we think of it as like our practice round, and like our second launch was like, this is a big deal to us. Because it felt important obviously, but there wasn't as much pressure because it was like our friends and family are supporting us, and like this is how you check out an order and fulfill it, and like it was very much so like, okay, this is how we are going to start putting processes into place. And then with the second launch, we were like, okay, we know what we want to do now. We're going to up our game and like make this big. And
yeah, we learned a lot from the first launch. I mean, Eliya was so desperate we were going to put out an item that should have never been put out because we did not understand. You were.
Yeah,
you were. The Willie Nelson effect.
It is the Willie Nelson effect.
She, like,
no one's going to get that right.
I know, but
it's okay.
we didn't understand how long production was actually going to take because who we were connected with that we still do now, like, we were told a certain amount of time, but then, like, shipping from China, and then, like, we could barely get pictures, and when we got the whole items, like, 2 of the box, 3 of them were wrong.
So
like,
wrong.
all 3 items were wrong, so we had to, like, push it back, and we were so dead set on launching on 3/20 that we had to, like, shift And so then when we did the other one, we were able to be like, okay, let's give ourselves 2 more months
Yeah.
just in case something happens again where we're starting to hype something up. And then we're like, hey, wait,
Never mind.
come back in 2 months. We'll have it to you then.
And that was like our running joke is like, how many times can we say coming soon before it's just like,
not
guys
coming
know
at
what
all.
soon means?
Yeah.
we're like, coming soon. It's March 20th. And we're like,
It's like when Jesus said
still-
coming soon.
yeah. we're in the last days.
Yeah.
Well, how long's a day? Yeah, I get it. It was tough. We learned a lot. And we
Yeah.
also learned a lot with round 2 as well.
Yeah.
And when did the second one launch? Narrow Road.
January 10th?
Yeah.
We try to base them on scripture, and that's the only reason I can ever kind of remember. So that one was based on Galatians 1:10,
That's cool.
around like if I was trying to please man. What is it? You guys know it. I wouldn't be a servant of God.
Yeah.
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 There it was.
Nice.
Yeah. So we launched it in January, and we put out so many pieces, which I think is like our lesson from this one of like, dang, that was a lot.
Do you feel like you did too much?
I don't know.
It was just a lot when we went from like shooting the first 3. I feel like it was such an easy shoot. We did like 2 people, and we only had like just our sample items,
Which was hilarious.
which was so hard.
We
They were
have to
literally
talk about that.
Yeah, they were.
We only had a large.
We
a
had
large
one
and a girl
large.
that was like an extra small.
We had one large T-shirt,
Yep.
an extra small girl, and like a
extra large
7
man.
foot tall.
Yes, and the hats were still the desperate hats that she was willing to put out that we were like, absolutely not. So we couldn't even shoot them properly. But it went so easy. And then we did this second one, and we had
multiple
4 models. We had 4 models.
2 shoots.
2 shoots. It took so long. We had 2 photographers, and even we couldn't even get like the flat lays, all of them done at the same time. And it was just like, oh no, like we have committed to a date. We had to like rebook the studio again because we didn't allow enough time for us to get everything we wanted.
And I feel like it's more so our first launch was like an honest, humble, like, hey, we're just getting started. Here's 3 things. That's all we can handle right now. And our second launch, I feel like, is up to par or is like scaled to like very established brands. And it's not that I regret doing that, but you know, you have to sell all of that
Yeah.
to make money to keep going. So
Do you have to buy everything ahead of time and then sell it?
Yeah.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's why we were saying like the promotions were so important because we're like,
Yeah.
we will never be able to get this off the ground
Yeah.
ever if that doesn't happen.
Is your
So-
goal to sell out of this one before you're doing 3?
No.
Okay.
At least we all said the same answer.
Yeah.
No, because
We want inventory. Like we want
do.
things on our website that people can be shopping and looking at.
and there's enough lead up time of
Yeah.
like concepting the next one, which we are pretty set on what that one's going to be. And like designing it, feedback, ordering it, waiting for it to come in, marketing shoots, like from ideation to like launching it, there's so much time that we could be selling through the rest of Narrow Road that we have left that
And we kind of purposefully, we made this one big in like SKUs and the amount of items that we had, but we also did like large quantities because we wanted to buy ourselves some time to like work on the next
Yeah.
whatever.
and we just love this one.
This one is
It's good.
sick.
This one's fun.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really good.
It's
I
good.
agree.
Like, not that I'm biased.
I am.
So you are working on 3 right now?
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Is this year?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Lord
Probably in the
willing.
fall. Lord willing, correct.
Yeah.
Can we have a hint? A little tease?
Should we commit?
If you don't want to, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as of right now, on this day, this is the
In this
plan.
moment in time.
We want to do the next one. It's going to be called School of Wonder. And it's going to be kind of like university, academia vibes.
Yep.
That's perfect for fall.
Yeah.
Right? Thank you.
Right.
Back
Yeah.
to school vibes.
Yes.
Yeah. I already have like a whole idea about like marketing it with like yearbook photos and like fun
Yeah.
stuff like
Yes.
that.
And we want to do like different items, and that's another thing about Narrow being good that we did it in that big of a SKU
collection,
and a
yeah.
collection, because we don't want to just do another like t-shirt and hoodie. We want to do like actual items that you wouldn't be able to like get anywhere else, because we will still probably have most of those in stock too, that we can still be selling hoodies and other things, because we don't want every time that we just launch, like, how many hoodies and t-shirts can we really like put out before people are like, how many of these do I
like, we get
need? We get it. So we're trying to even figure that out. Like, how do you go and make a sweater vest? How do you eventually get into denim? How do you make different hats? Like, what is the plan for that?
And then it's not necessarily unisex anymore.
That's true. I mean,
It depends.
It depends on how you do it.
Yeah, we kind of feel like we can try to keep it as unisex as possible. Well, it's funny because like when we made this little crew neck, like I was like, oh, that's so girly. Like, dudes don't want this. Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
so
they
I'm
do.
like, okay, love that. And I would say this jersey is probably the equivalent of like Narrow Road's one-off like interesting piece, because we've never made a jersey before. So I feel like that will live in that collection. I don't know that we would probably do that again. We might.
yeah.
But then with School of Wonder, it's like, oh, what can our 1 to 2 thing be that's different? So like a sweater vest, a cardigan, whatever it is that we land on, will probably not be made again depending on the next drop. So it's so fun.
That's cool.
I think that's what I love about the business model is it's like we're not married to like one logo, one look.
Yeah.
How many places on a garment can I stick that thing?
Yeah.
It's like we get to reinvent the wheel every time. Like that is so
That's
much
so
fun.
cool. I know I've told, like, anytime I tell my friends that I was going to film with you, I'm like, oh, have you heard of this brand? Like, they partner with a different charity every time. And they're like, that's the coolest idea I've ever heard. And I was like, I know. That's what I've been saying. Like, it's such a cool
That's
idea.
fun.
So what do you feel like the biggest thing you've learned through all of this has been?
I would say, I think what we go back to with the whole brand story and looking back at like how God has weaved all of our lives together, weaved the brand together. Sure, there's like a ton of like business things that we've really learned, but I think the greatest lesson that we've taken away is that prayer matters, that when you look for God and you desire his will for your life and communicate with him through prayer, that he really shows up and he really answers, and it's not a one-sided conversation. Like God is speaking, and majority of the time we're not slowing down enough to pay attention or to listen. And I think through prayer and all of that, we've just learned more about who God is in our lives, which I think is probably the most beneficial thing that could have happened, whether the business succeeds or not. I think it would all be worth it just to have a deeper understanding of our relationships with the Lord, as well as just like stewardship. Like now we're in the season of like, oh, we're running this thing. Like we're running the race that the Lord has set before us. And I think there are moments where we look at each other and are like, have we given up? We haven't posted a reel in like 6 years. Like, I'm like, uh-oh. Like, we always have to gut check, like, hey, how can we really steward this blessing that the Lord has given us? Because when we tell the story back and it feels fresh and people are hearing it for the first time, they're like, oh, wow, like God really spoke to them and like told them to do this thing. Well, we're also humans, and it's weird how the human experience is that you lose awe for things like that over time. It's just like you can so easily forget what God has just called you to or what God has spoken to you last. It can just somehow vanish under like the distractions and noise of the world, which is just so annoying, and I hate that. But it's real and it's true, and that just kind of happens. And so I think we're also just trying to continually learn how to lean into this calling, steward it well, and continually pray through like what the next steps are versus just being like, oh yeah, we launched it, we did it, and moving on. Like it's something that has to be cultivated over time. So I think just like partnering with the Lord in that way and understanding that prayer matters and that like he's in it has been the biggest lesson, coolest thing that we could ever walk away from this experience with. So
Yeah, I love that.
yeah.
That's so cool. Thank you guys for all sharing.
Thanks for having
you for having
us.
Of course.
On your
And
professional podcast.
That's amazing.
I'll link everything in all of your
Awesome.
socials. And if you want to work with Be
Yeah,
Good,
make the job
Yeah.
descriptions. Remember, pro bono work.
yeah, the best
For the
kind.
Lord.
Internships.